rapidly evolving expectations in the housing market. That was intense. That's what we're going to talk about today, though. Mortgage Professionals Canada published a couple of exciting reports, as they do every year, but they're on top of it right now, having published in August, September, October, and December 4 different reports about how people are feeling about the economy, housing in general, and some interesting stats for buyers and renters. So we're going to walk through our findings of an infographic for the most recent publishing in September, and a little bit from August and before, and give you some commentary on that. If you are someone in the market or someone thinking about getting to the market, I think you're going to enjoy our commentary. We'll do our best to make it fun and spice it up. But before we get into that, we have to talk about the 5-star review of the week. As always, we are very appreciative of listeners that we have on the show, and for you to share our podcast with other people. Again, the only ticket for entry from anyone is to just share and help provide good content to people that are out there. We don't ask for much else. So on May 2nd, so we're a little behind here, but we're going back. DJ Lofty, I think I know who this is, but DJ Lofty, please send us a message. We want to say thank you. He says, highly recommend. The podcast is highly relevant to the weekly happenings of the Vancouver real estate market and is clear, concise, and entertaining. Thank you, sir. I've learned a lot so far and look forward to future episodes. Thank you, DJ Lofty. You're getting a lovely Thrive mug and some coffee coming your way. Just send us your address and we will get that right over to you. So again, I'm Alex McFadden. This is my partner, Dean Lawton, and Derek Williamson. We are mortgage brokers here at Thrive Mortgage Co., and we help make our clients money in real estate. We're excited for you guys to listen to this episode. If you love the show, leave a review. Let us know what you think, and we'll talk to you soon. What's up, guys? You are listening to the YVR Remo Show, where we talk all things Vancouver real estate and mortgages, take boring topics and make them interesting. Make sure to stay tuned to listen to everything you need to know how to put cash back in your pocket, create wealth in real estate, and simplify the complicated. We are here today to talk about some interesting stats that have recently been published by Mortgage Professionals Canada. As if you guys don't know, Mortgage Professionals Canada is obviously an advocate association for mortgage brokers across Canada and advocates for consumers for the most part. But they published some interesting reports ever since COVID has occurred and happened. There's just been so much interest in not only the housing market, but what's happening to homeowners, what's their confidence level going forward. And they're going to be publishing 4 consecutive reports. So right now we have 2 reports in hand. One was in August, September, we've got October, and then we'll have a little gap before December. And this really touches on, again, consumer confidence, how people feel about buying a home or not buying a home, regrets, what positions they're in, and really, really, really interesting stats today. So what we're going to do today is we're actually going to go through the infographic so we can just kind of focus on some key details, which we'll publish as well. If you're listening to this on the podcast, or if you are watching this right now, we'll also publish this on our blog so you guys can read through it. We're going to kind of touch on some of the key points and just our experiences and what we're seeing, and just it's more of a conversational episode. And we'd love to hear feedback if you have been impacted, are not impacted by what's happened, and what your feelings are going forward on a lot of the topics. So as always, I'm Alex, Dean, Derek are with me here today, and we've already given away a mug. So make sure, guys, to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and share this up with everybody, because it keeps us going on Saturdays at 1:45 in the afternoon. So, Dean, where do you want to get started on this one, man?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest pieces that jumped out to me from this report was just the fact that 98% of homeowners are currently happy with their decision to buy a home and choosing home ownership, which was a pretty big number that jumped out
immediately. Yeah,
you got to be curious as to what the 2% are and their reasons, right?
For sure. And yeah, so the other, obviously the flip side to that is 2% are regretting their decision to buy a home and choose home ownership. So it could be the fact that maybe that home was too big or too small or in the wrong area.
Could have bought at the wrong time, right? We've seen
sure.
some people that are taking a bit of a loss on pre-sale purchases right now, and never know.
Yeah. Interesting on that note. So just staying on that same statistic. So homeowners happy with the decision to buy a home from August to September. And by the way, this was a survey published with 1,000 individuals. Not all are homeowners with mortgages. I think it was 650. They had a mortgage. Another 300 or so are not homeowners, so they're renters. And then the rest are like living with parents. Went up from 90% who were happy in August up to 98% in September. So just like that over the course of a month. So what else could you derive from that?
The market's been very, very strong and stable in certain areas, right? And I think that could maybe, you know, I'm sure going through COVID, a lot of people were concerned if they had purchased at that time, what is going to happen? And just seeing that the market is staying very strong and stable and actually picking up in most markets could maybe kind of justify that purchase for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think we've seen more listings come on month over month too. Like for a period of time when we were in the first wave and the second wave, like there was hardly any new inventory coming into the market. So, you know, maybe somebody was buying out of a necessity that was just not ideal because there just wasn't much to choose from. Where now there's a lot more inventory, so there's a lot more choice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if we look at September, just from a standpoint of people who are happy who own real estate right now, which again, it might be an obvious statement, but not everyone always is. When the August report was published, it showed resale activity in Canada below what it was pre-COVID. So in August, believe it or not, it wasn't up to where we were at in, say, like February at the start of the year. Since that timeline, we've seen the resale activity jump all the way up to, well, what's considered the highest potential that we've ever seen in history. So September report is showing right now that we're about to basically eclipse the highest number of sales per thousand.
Yeah,
historically.
I think that was like a 40-year comparison, and we got to keep in mind that is all of Canada, but I would say largely the greater Toronto market and greater Vancouver market are probably what's pushing a lot of those stats. But still, it's crazy to see. Like July was the busiest month in 40 years.
It's kind of like this thought too, when you hold a stock and you see that stock drop in value, you generally speaking feel kind of crappy if you're watching it every single day, like this isn't ideal for some people. Other people may have a little bit more level head. And I feel like to a degree, that's a lot of what we hear from homeowners too, where if they're watching the market and they're watching the news and they see their values drop, or they look at that e-value assessment, they're like, you know what? My 2018 assessment was 500. Now it only shows 430, and I'm seeing less happen in the marketplace. I'm maybe not feeling as positive. And now, since everyone's seeing these values go through the roof, again, feeling really good and really confident and strong, and which is obviously a key in dictating why people are still continuing to buy and sell. Yeah. Moving on from that, the next category they talk about is, and this is just the opposite of people who actually regret their homeownership, 2%. I think we spent enough time kind of walking through that, but I think we're always going to have a small subset, but that's the lowest I've ever seen in any of these generated reports. And I don't know if you guys have seen anything different.
No, I would agree with that for sure. And yeah, I wouldn't have much to add on that. It's interesting to see like just some of the reasons why current owners are looking to make a change in the next 3 to 5 years. I think that was the next category that we're going to jump into. And, the home is just no longer suitable, size, location. I think that's kind of probably the most common reason why people come to us to buy their next home, whether they're moving up or downsizing, or just not happy with the school or the parks, or it's becoming more crime in the area than expected. So I think the biggest theme I see from all of this is it's been pretty consistent year over year. Like these stats don't look much different from where they were in 2019. So COVID and everything that's gone on isn't making much of an impact of why people are selling and why people are buying.
Yeah, so there's a stat of 4%. 4% of people have said that they might want to move or buy because they can no longer actually afford the current property, which is a very, very low stat, which means that affordability isn't a huge factor in most people's moves. I mean, outside of 4% of the population or the people that were in this poll. But even going through something like COVID, where there's obviously been dramatic amounts of income loss and layoffs, seeing that stat at 4% it actually looks pretty good.
For sure. Yeah, 100%. Like, I think a lot of people potentially look at buying, bigger homes or buying more than they need. But not a lot, but the fact that that's a 4% stat, it is low, but I think it's something that's always been around that range. So it's just interesting for me to see when comparing it to 2019, these numbers aren't really any different.
Mm-hmm. Conversely, like looking at these stats right here, it does say that in August. So again, what was the number one thing that we heard for people that were moving post COVID was, well, one of two things. We were waiting before to buy, and now we're going to do it. But it was actually size and location. Like we wanted to have a little bit more space. We wanted a little bit more area. Interesting to see that people aren't having issues with affordability, contrary to popular belief. But home is no longer the suitable size or location being the number one. And so the two most common situations that we're seeing and dealing with right now aren't people just lateral moving. We're seeing people move up to more space, more house, co-buying with families to get a very, very big house, or quite literally moving out of the city. A very, very big thing right now. So to see the number one reason for people looking to buy in the next couple of years is because of the size and location. It continues to be over a third of people is for that reason. That reason alone is quite interesting. Renters actually echo the same sentiment. Like, why would a renter want to buy in the next 3 to 5 years? Consistent August to September, we were looking at about 30% of people want to live in a nicer property, which is really interesting. And almost no one said it was because they couldn't afford. So people actually still see housing as obviously a good investment, but a place that they can make their own, which is pretty key.
75% of homeowners actually don't think it's an investment when it's probably the biggest investment that they own. Like, they're not even thinking about how much wealth creation that property is creating for them for retirement or whatever, right? It's interesting to see that people don't think about it like that.
That's a good point. Conversely, so 3 out of 4 people. So if you're one of those people that are listening to this and or watching this right now, we definitely have some ways that we can work on changing your mind. It is the number one asset that you'll ever own, and can be considered very strong and should be for everyone considered investment. So thanks for pointing it out. That's really interesting. As far as deferrals, like, let's just talk about this for a second, because this has been a very hot topic. At least it was back in, what was it, I guess March, where our phones did not stop ringing for 3 weeks asking about the deferral program. Just kind of walking through the statistics right now on people that are expected difficulty in making mortgage payments. We're finding that the vast amount of people are not expecting any issues at all. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 72% of first-time home buyers are expecting no difficulty in making their mortgage payments, and 75% for repeat buyers. So that's a massive number, in my opinion.
Yeah. In addition to that, like, so just again, conversely, people who are expecting what we would consider to be a lot of difficulty, again, keeping in mind, this is a Canadian-based survey, so it's not just Toronto or Vancouver. I think these numbers would actually be lower in major cities. Only 6% of first-time buyers are expecting a lot of difficulty, and 4% of repeat buyers are expecting a lot of difficulty. And again, I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that most of those people are probably in locations outside of your typical cities or in the Maritimes that were more greatly affected than the Western cities or downtown cores, for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate for anyone that's in that position, obviously. And the deferrals have been, I believe it was extended once already, but they could be coming to an end. I think it's going to be up to, as of right now, the federal government hasn't come out enforcing further deferrals. So there's a chance that some lenders could cut that off, which could cause issues for some of these people. So planning ahead is really important. But I don't know what you guys have seen. Personally, I've probably seen 10 to 15 of our clients that have deferred. The funny thing is that a lot of them didn't actually have any financial impact from COVID. They heard from a family member or a friend that it might be a good idea to defer so that they could maybe sock some money away or invest or what have you. So we've seen a lot of people deferring for the wrong reasons. And I've had a couple clients that have investment properties and the tenants stopped paying. And as soon as they stopped paying, they decided to defer.
Yeah, we'll touch on this in a future episode, but we have seen it noted on a credit bureau that a deferral plan was set up. So it's not setting up, it's not a negative impact on your credit bureau, but it is a known fact that you did defer. So it's not negative, but it's going to pose a question of what was going on, what was the story. Mm-hmm. So if there wasn't a job loss and you just took it for the wrong reason, we don't know how that's going to impact you. It could impact you negatively. So that's interesting to see.
Yeah. So in summary, as far as the future deferrals, they're all set to run out here in, I believe, September and October for most people. That's when we'll be at the 6-month mark. And so, CMHC was predicting that we were going to fall off a debt cliff. But funny enough, there was actually a report published recently by a gentleman named Dan Eisner in one of the mortgage professional groups on Facebook that we have thousands of members across Canada, and he runs a lender and showed that his statistics actually showed that people have been voluntarily going back to pay back their mortgage over the course of the last 4 months. Month over month over month, people are actually electing not to defer their program anymore and pay those mortgage payments, which is quite interesting and is contrary to what Evan Siddell of CMHC said, which is essentially expect everything to kind of fall off because people won't be able to make those payments. I, for one, will be very interested to hear because much like to your point, Derek, I actually don't think I've talked to a single person who deferred their mortgage for more than a month, maybe 2 months at most, who hasn't started paying, who could. Meaning, to your point, I think a lot of the people that I talked to who deferred were actually people that didn't have to, or it was for a tenant situation, and now they're back at it. Mm-hmm. So curious. Moving forward on home buying expectations, really interesting stats here to consider. A lot of people expected, with what was happening, people would just stay put and not make a move. And, obviously I think a lot's happening day by day, month by month right now for people to understand. But let's talk about, what that's showing right now for current homeowners' impact on buying their next home. I don't know if one of you guys wants to take that off.
Yes. So current owners are essentially, 75% assume no impact on their home buying expectations. So again, a huge number there, with 7% purchasing sooner. So because of COVID-19, they're looking to 7% are looking to purchase sooner than maybe what they previously expected, and we have about 19% delaying a purchase.
Yeah. So all in all, over 80% of people are still going to move forward just like they were before, and even a portion of those saying that they would move forward earlier. And again, these are stats that were collected in the end of August, early September, that were just published. Really, really interesting to see that because, again, I think that a lot of people expected most people to just hold off and wait and wait and wait. But relative to the previous month where we saw those statistics actually higher in regards to waiting, we're seeing the opposite occur where people are like, no, I'm going to jump in, I'm going to buy and get right into the market. And I mean, Derek, you've seen that with a lot of your own clients, hey?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think one of the biggest reasons that a lot of people don't think about, or maybe they do think about, but interest rates, like they are so dramatically low. It's insane. It's mind blowing how low interest rates are and how much of an impact it makes on not only your monthly payments, but the cost of interest, the cost of borrowing, how much additional principal you're paying down. So I think that's one of the key factors that's really making this make sense for a lot of people.
Well, I mean, let's just talk about that for a second, because if we're going to take a $500,000 mortgage at a 2% interest rate today, let's use that as an example, your monthly payment's about $1,846. That's based on a 30-year amortized loan. In 2018, a similar mortgage was about, let's say, 3.59%, $2,262. So that's almost a $400 difference in your monthly payment, which is the equivalent to an extra $100,000 of mortgage money today. To put that all into context, from 2018 to today, we have not seen prices actually go up very much from 2019, yes, because it was soft. So it's actually more affordable today to buy a home than it was 2 years ago, purely because of interest rates. And I don't think a lot of people recognize that because last year, obviously, we saw the softening.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Know your numbers.
Yeah,
know your numbers,
exactly.
Guys. Know your numbers. Really interesting. Let's just touch on renters and how they feel right now, if anybody wants to chime in. But so this has had more of an impact on renters, which, again, I think this says a lot about having a home and owning a home as an investment and how strong an investment that really is and how good of a position that can put you in, because we saw a lot more renters change their mind. 41% of them having no impact on their plans to buy a home, 16% saying they're going to buy sooner, and 42% of renters said they were going to delay their purchase. So I don't know, commentary on that, guys?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know what to make of the 42% that delayed. For me, that seems like a big number, but I always found like renters, they're always kind of sitting on the fence in a way. And I would like to see what that stat looked like prior, because I feel like it's almost like a 50-50 ratio with renters.
Home owners have the leverage of being able to use that equity to do something else, and they're already in the market, so that first leap already occurred. To your point, it seems so scary for a lot of people just to get into the market and make that first leap, right?
For sure.
I think
100%.
what this says to me is get in, when you can, because obviously it's been proven that over time, at least statistics time and again continue to show that people who own real estate, generally speaking, are wealthier overall. Obviously there's some situations that's not the case, but overall.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, like nobody wants to see the value of your home go down, but what I tell everybody is even if prices do come down, because they likely will, if you're going to own real estate for the rest of your life, you're going to see it go up and down. But it's not really relevant unless you're actually trying to refinance or sell your property in that down market, right? So as long as you can hold it and you have a place to live that you're comfortable with, it'll be a very good long-term investment.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying buying a home, generally speaking, is a smart financial decision.
For sure. I mean, your house goes down $100,000 next year. Okay, not ideal, but if you don't sell at that point, it doesn't actually realize, right?
Yeah, and you're paying down your principal month over month. So it's
I think it's fair to say this can never be a blanket statement for every single individual in every single city in the country. But, for people who are living in, again, a major core or city where we do see the appreciation, or who need a place to live or who have a, generally speaking, steady job, a very good decision. If you're holding off and getting into the market, you should be talking to us for sure, because there's a lot of people who aren't thinking about co-applying with someone, even for a couple of years, looking at the possibility of getting an early inheritance to get your down payment, whatever it is, get into the market. I mean, I can attest to that, and most of our clients can, and so forth. So any other closing thoughts on these studies, guys? Like anything else that you want to share as we kind of end the show around this?
Just one quick one. It's not actually in the infographic, but it's in the full report about some changes in employment situations. And there's a lot here, but just quickly, it was interesting to see that 16% of people were not working before COVID, and that number is actually still about the same. So that was interesting to me. And then just some stats on impaired income. So people that have maybe seen less hours because of COVID, it was only a 20% number for homeowners, and 19%, and that's continued to drop. So we've seen people come back to work in first wave, second wave. So that was just an interesting piece to me, just seeing that overall about 60% of people have seen no impact from their income. So
yeah,
that was interesting.
Yeah, and to your point about digging deeper in the stats, in the next year, people who are either whether they have a mortgage or they don't have a mortgage, compared to fall of 2018, all the way up to the second wave, quote unquote second wave of COVID, every single survey that's been published has shown that people in the next year want to become homeowners, and the statistics are showing that consistently more people are hoping to become homeowners, whether they're renters or not. And that's an interesting stat, and that's in almost all categories. Say that in the next year or in the next 2 years, they'd like to either upsize or buy a home compared to 2018. So consumer confidence is up. People are feeling strong, and hey, people want to own homes. So I still think you guys have a good investment opportunity ahead of you there.
100%. Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for, and ladies and gentlemen, I should say, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. As always, if you're loving the show, make sure to rate us on iTunes. 5 stars is awesome. Please send us a message or a screenshot or anything else, and we'll make sure to get you one of our fancy little Thrive mugs. And if you ask us nicely, we might give you some delicious coffee as well. Have a fantastic afternoon, morning, evening, whenever you're listening to this, and we look forward to seeing you all again very soon.